John Lewis is right. When he came to New Jersey 2 weeks ago, the same famed civil rights leader perfectly described the issue of marriage equality. I think the day will come in New Jersey and all across our country, he said, when we look back at this period and say, we were just silly. But it's not the heartfelt testimonies of those who promised the civil unions that have failed that are silly, nor the tears of those who want to be treated as equals. Not even the overtopped dramatics by politicians with a name call. What is silly is that we actually have to debate something as elementary as equal protection under the law for all residents. Over the past 6 weeks, I've heard reasons and arguments for marriage equality that have only strengthened my belief that the passage of this bill is the right thing and the just thing. I've heard from the couples who have been failed by civil unions false promises of equality, and from the legal community that recognizes the holes in our current law cannot be fixed. It's time for us to own up to a fact. Civil unions are a failed experiment. They do not promote equality, they only prolong stigma. There's only one solution: marriage, in word and in deed, for all. Yet from the opponents of equality, I've not heard any reasoned arguments. I've only heard fears and excuses. But those who worry about the traditions of their churches, temples, and synagogues will be undone have nothing to fear at all. Marriage is not about religion. It never was, and it never will be. We cannot discriminate against communities of faith by forcing them to embrace marriage equality if it goes against their core religious tenets and teachings. But similarly, we cannot allow those religious communities to push their beliefs upon those that do wish to embrace equality. The law would enable all communities of faith to do what is in line with their tenets, beliefs, and yes, traditions. We need look no further our neighbors in the north for the reality check that marriage equality builds stronger communities and states. Connecticut, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New York, Vermont, each recognize full marriage equality. The sky hasn't fallen in A's. Each has recognized the benefits that can come only by recognizing all families as equal stature. We talk about family values. Well, it's about time we truly value families. Lastly, to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, I know that some of you want to vote for marriage equality out of principle, and because your conscience tells you it's the right thing to do. I also know you've been confronted with political retribution for doing so. But when marriage equality was enacted in New York, and more recently in Washington State, it could not have been done so without the support of courageous Republicans. Republican Party sponsors because they knew they had to do the right thing. Those who did were hailed as heroes, not just in New York and Washington, but across our nation. You could be that hero. You could be that person when our great-grandkids are looking back at this moment 100 years from now, is singled out for having done a remarkable thing for justice and equality. Our votes today may be cast as a yes or a no, but in history they will forever be recorded as a right and a wrong. There is no third option. So now's your moment. Now's the time to stand up and say, yes, I hear the pleas of those who want nothing more than to be treated fairly and equitably. And I stand with them. Many have heard me say this, but it bears repeating. In the words that were used to eulogize Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the time is always right to do that which is right and that which needs to be done. The words are just as true now as they were 44 years ago. I know many of you deep down know this is absolutely the right thing to do. I can tell you based on experience, failing to do the right thing and knowing it is a horrible feeling that needs to do every second of every day. Yes, unless you vote against the measure, you might get your elected position and the support of those that come along with it. And you might be able to put legislation through. But at what cost? Isn't it more important that we as elected representatives did something truly to change people's lives for the better? And honestly, I'm not talking about tax policy or paving roads or ribbon cuttings. I'm talking about real, true change in the way we treat each other as human beings. The kind of change that will ripple across this nation and echo throughout the ages. John Lewis is right. If two men want to fall in love and get married, or two women, it's their business, he said. It's not the role of the federal government or the state government to intervene. It's a question of human dignity and a question of human rights. Please, do the right thing and support this bill. Thank you, Madam President.
Civil union law in New Jersey is flawed. The protections for same-sex couples are vague and undefined, and recognition of the law stops at our state borders. The word marriage is society's universal, civil, and legal acknowledgement of a loving relationship. The same legal and civil recognition that my late husband Sherwin and I enjoyed throughout our almost 40-year marriage. Next week will be the 13th anniversary of his passing. And when I go to my synagogue to say my prayers during that service, I know that the bill we are considering today is from my rabbi and my fellow congregants, and for their right to practice our religion as each of them see fit. We've heard from our constituents, our neighbors, and our friends about how the law treats same-sex couples differently than it does opposite-sex couples. We've listened to hours upon hours of heart-wrenching testimony in both houses of the legislature about how the civil union law does not work and ends up marginalizing same-sex partners and their families at the time when the law's protection is needed most. Today, with the passage of this bill, we will be taking a step in the right direction to correct this inequality. It's time for New Jersey to get on the right side of history and enact true marriage equality for every one of our residents. I recognize that this bill has its detractors, some in this very room and some right down the hallway. Detractors who would fight the inevitable, I repeat, inevitable march of progress on marriage equality, and they might be fighting it for personal and maybe even political reasons. They claim religious exclusivity on the institution of marriage, as if people cannot be married outside of the church, or as if any one denomination has sole dominion over the sanctity of marriage. They hide behind a veil of family values and cite fears that a marriage equality law will require them to address the seemingly controversial issue of homosexuality within their own families. If you don't believe in gay marriage, don't enter into a gay marriage. It's really as simple as that. Because when it comes right down to it, the marriage of two committed, consenting people in love, be they straight or gay, should make zero difference to the rest of the world. The bill absolutely maintains everyone's rights to adhere to until the adoption and ratification of the 19th Amendment in 1920, achieved through congressional action and ratified by the New Jersey legislature, not the voters, and it was ratified in February. And this year will be about 90 years this month. So I ask each of you to look into your hearts and follow your consciousness on the issue of marriage equality. Will you side with institutional prejudice, social injustice, and cultural inertia and vote this bill down? Or will you recognize, as I have, and as others in this chamber have, that people should be judged by the love in their heart, not the gender of their love? Stand up to the governor, not because of political calculations or fear of retribution, or because it's the right thing to do on this issue. With enough votes, in the future, we can override the governor's veto. And we can do right by New Jersey same-sex couples who are being denied basic equal rights under the current law. For my part, I will cast my vote for love. I will cast my vote in the names of my grandchildren's uncles Nelson and David. I will cast my vote in honor of my good friends Stephen and Daniel, and Jane and Ann, and yes, one of our colleagues right across the hall, Tim Eustace and Kevin Williams. I will cast my vote in honor of my cousin Stephen. I will cast my vote for the Holden and Gio family, for Madison, Adam, and their loving grandfather. And most important, I will cast my vote in honor of my grandchildren, Jaden and Jonah, who should be able to grow up in a world in which love, not fear and hatred, is the law of the land. Mr. President, in their honor, and the many, many New Jerseyans who enjoy equal rights under this legislation, I gladly move this bill.
Continuing our leadership in the evolution of civil rights, New Jersey amended its law against discrimination in 1991 to include sexual orientation, a right that still does not exist in 29 other states and under federal law. Today, we have an opportunity to be on the right side of history and take our rightful place in being a leader amongst the 50 states. We can join New York, Vermont, Washington, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Iowa by approving marriage equality. The sanctity of marriage has not been endangered by marriage equality in those 7 states. In fact, it's been enhanced by allowing more loving couples to get married. Senators, where do you want New Jersey to be on the evolution of civil rights in the United States of America? Where do you want to be on the evolution of civil rights in the United States of America? Are you going to soar like an eagle or follow like a sheep? I want to soar like an eagle. I want to dance at Marsha and Louise's wedding. I want New Jersey to be a leader. I want to be a leader. I vote yes for marriage equality.
Arguing against this emotionally charged bill is very simple. Unless one is in touch with and focused on reality and has the courage to eschew political correctness. And indeed, this will rely on politically correct notions to obfuscate the obvious. Gender and gender difference are self-evident realities. Throughout human history, that difference has had an important role to play in the development of civilized society and in the survival of the human race. Some of us are male, and some are female. And through some consistent miracle of nature, it remains roughly 50-50. develop all sorts of relationships with one another. Some are parent-child or siblings. Others are outside the family. Those relationships can be with folks of the same gender or with folks of a different gender. These relationships can be based on family, on commonality of interest, on affection, or myriad other human conditions. Some of these relationships have a sexual component, and others do not. Throughout human history, marriage has been a term used to describe a specific, particular human relationship. Marriage has always been the union of humans of different genders. Not all humans of different genders choose to marry, but those who do choose to marry are motivated by a variety of reasons, among which are love, convenience, and even politics and economics. But the essential characteristic of a marriage, the very definition of the term, is that it involves at least one male and at least one female. That definition has prevailed for thousands of years in many varied cultures, some highly civilized, some primitive, and some isolated by ocean, distance, and time. But marriage is not the only relationship common to humans. Indeed, there are relationships between humans of differing genders, which are not marriage. And there are relationships of humans of the same gender, which are not marriage. Some of those relationships have a sexual component and others do not. This bill seeks to change thousands of years of human history by redefining, reordering our thinking, so that if it were to become law, marriage would no longer have to include at least one male and at least one female. The justification for this proposed change is that there are some folks of the same gender who have formed loving relationships, but cannot, under thousands of years of tradition, custom, and law, define their relationship as marriage. They view our law as discrimination, no matter how we have sought to redress their substantive issue. It's amazing that in New Jersey, where taxes are the highest in our nation, where unemployment ravages our economy, where health care, property taxes, college tuition, and so many other ills are killing our state, that this extremely controversial bill is the top priority of our legislative leadership. Are there not more pressing priorities we should address? But while this bill is advertised as needed to end discrimination against same-sex couples, if enacted, it would create discrimination against many other cohabiting couples simply because their relationship is not based on sexuality. What about two brothers, two sisters, father and son, a mother and daughter, who have decided to cohabit, to live as a household? They have chosen not to mate with someone of the same or a different gender, but this bill does not permit them to marry one another. Of course, in today's world, closely bound families are not permitted to marry for good and valid genetic reasons. Incest produces negative impacts on our society. But if we open marriage to some same-sex couples in the name of anti-discrimination, why not to all couples? In my view, this bill simply panders to allow well-financed pressure and is not in the public interest. I appeal to my colleagues, get back to your senses. Do not break with thousands of years of civilized tradition. This bill opens Pandora's box. The unintended consequences could be more than we can imagine or manage.
You know, there's someone before me talked about women's suffrage campaign, which was more than a century ago and took decades to enact the right for women in this country to vote. And think about what happened after they got that right. And by the way, back then it was considered a privilege, not a right. It was a right, and the earth shattered, and our country just turned to ashes. Did it destroy our state? No, of course not. Think back to the 60s and the civil rights movement, about what went on. People who were told you have no right to sit at the same lunch counter as we do. Incredible that was going on. You couldn't drink out of the same water fountain. That was all right. You had to sit in the back of the bus, and that was all right, because all of those things were called a privilege and not a right. And it took time, it took lives, but eventually they got the right, because it wasn't a privilege. It was a right for all of those things. And the earth didn't change. Nothing happened. That was bad. It was all good. And think about even something like the ADA, the right for those who are disabled to be able to enter a building, public building, a restaurant, or whatever. All the rights that everybody else took for granted, they didn't have simply because they were disabled. And by the way, that wasn't long ago. That shouldn't have been a privilege. That should have been a right. But it took time, and it took effort, and we progressed as a society. And that is what we're trying to do today. It's very simple, and it's very elementary. And we say, what if this bill could ever become law? What in God's name would happen that would be bad in our neighborhoods, at our place of work, at our schools, at our houses of worship? I say nothing. Nothing at all. All this will do, though, the meaning to it for thousands and thousands and thousands of New Jerseyans who have prayed, who have marched, who have campaigned for the same right that we have. Not a privilege, but a right. This will put them in the status of marriage of equal partners to all of us. That's all that would change, Mr. President, that these people have the same rights as we do. And it's time. We all know that in the passage of time, this state and this country on this issue has changed dramatically. Its time is now, and it couldn't come at a better time.
So the message that we continue to send is one of equality, of one of being less than,
I respect the opinions and views of all of my colleagues. But it is my opinion that our republic was established to guarantee liberty to all people. And that it is our role as elected representatives to protect all of the people that live in our state. In 2006, our Supreme Court deliberated over whether same-sex couples are entitled to the same rights and benefits according to married heterosexual couples. To quote, cast in that light, this issue is not about the transformation of traditional definition of marriage, but about the equal dispensation of benefits and privileges to one of two similarly situated classes of people. They then cite Article 1, Paragraph 1 of the state's Constitution, which requires the equal protection of all of our residents. The reality is that our civil union law has not provided that protection, nor has it provided that equality. And today, it is my opinion, as we talk about marriage equality, we're talking about a word that provides a legal framework for the individual rights of the citizens of our state. We should focus on protecting all individuals. And remember that today we have some among us who are separate and not equal.
Contract second machine, please record your vote. All votes recorded, properly recorded. I direct the secretary to close the machine for tally. Senate Bill S1 receiving 24 votes in the affirmative, 16 in the negative. I declare it passed and take the usual course of passed bills. Bills on third reading. Senate Bill number 1.